Welcome back to another episode of the Rodcast. This episode is brought to you by the guys at Daiwa. Rothy, when you're out there chasing big fish, one thing you can't compromise on is your line. Is it the same for small fish when you go?
Matter of fact, it is, Lecca. J-Braid and J-Thread are built with Japanese PE tech, so you're getting serious strength and consistency. Cast clean, it's smooth, and you get that sensitivity where you feel everything. There's heaps of options too, different colours, breaking strains, spool sizes. You can match to exactly what you're doing. This is the kind of line you spool up and you don't second guess.
Give yourself every chance. Get some of this on your reel. Now let's get into the Rodcast.
Lecca, we are back for episode 31 of the Rodcast, mate. We haven't even touched on it, but we turned a year old a couple of episodes ago too. So
Gone quick.
yeah, it has gone really quick. It feels like it's only been a couple of months. So thanks to everyone that's been tuning in over the last couple of years, but we couldn't do any of this without our guests. And we got a couple of repeat guests today, two of our favourite guests that we've had on both personally and the audience as well. We've had some great numbers on the listens on these episodes. So we've got the boys from Vexed. We got P. Willie and Tim Farnell back in the new studio. Welcome, boys. Pleasure to have you back.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having us again. Good to see you.
What do you think of the new digs, boys?
Yeah,
Cave's a
shacks.
ripper. I really like it. It's like a little love shack.
What did you want to call it?
The gorilla's nest.
Couple of gorillas sitting here.
Not far
Or
off.
is there some sort of sick meaning behind that one?
I'll
Like
leave
all
that
your
one.
jokes.
That one. Tim's here.
God.
Let's not start too early.
Yeah.
So we got chalk and cheese here too. We got P. Willie here to misbehave and keep us entertained, and Tim to keep him in line so Vex doesn't get cancelled.
Always the way, boys. We start every episode with the last fish you caught. This one's no different. Tim, I know you're just sitting there with a big cheesy grin on your face. Willie, we'll start with you though. What's the last fish you caught?
Bit embarrassing, but it was a probably about a 25 centimeter pike.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just took the little fella
Stinky,
down
slimy pike.
down the Frio, just marinaing, rockwalling, and we just caught a bunch of small stuff. And I was using some micro jigs and caught a little tiny, probably 25 centimeter pike and some little Tailor and yakkers and herring, and just so much fun though.
Young fella showed you up as well. Hey, you just show me a picture.
Yeah. We got a dirty big crab as well, the biggest one I've ever seen. And yeah, he's pretty efficient at catching herring as well. Got bitten off by a Tailor and cried, so that was the
Yep.
that really
He'll
struck
come
it
back
for me.
for more.
Yeah.
Is he getting hooked now?
Yeah,
Pretty
absolutely.
young, your kids, eh?
Yeah.
You reckon you get the fishing bug?
Yeah, well, he didn't like it much, so I didn't want to push him. I felt that he was forced into it and didn't like it, but then his mates showed some just a bit of interest in it, and their dads aren't probably the best anglers around there, just haven't done it much. So I took the soccer team fishing, and we caught a bunch of fish, and just by him watching the reaction to the other kids,
Yeah.
set
You're
a
at that
fire
age.
under him. So yeah,
You always want to
he's
do what
into
your
it.
mate's doing, whether it's footy or soccer or fishing or
Into
whatever
it.
it might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when they start asking for it, it's like, that's the best. My kids are about the same, I reckon. Tim, I'm going to ask you, because you're sitting here with a little cheesy grin on your face. I don't know, you caught a good fish the other day. I don't know if it was the last one you caught, but what's the last fish you got?
It was the last one.
Yeah.
It's not very often I have the wood over P. Willie, so I'll take that. 14 kilo Mulloway off the beach.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wicked.
That was Saturday morning, so
Run us through it. Why'd you pick that day to go for Mulloway in particular?
secrets. New moon. It was just the day after the new moon, basically, and the tides were incoming and everything looked good. A little bit of swell around, water was dirty, and
Yep.
Have you caught Mulloway at this spot before?
yes,
You have. All right.
absolutely.
I won't ask you too much then. But
Yep.
Liable spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
good.
you put a bit of influence on the tides, eh, with Mulloway?
Yeah, always like
Fish
that.
tide change.
Always like that tide change or an incoming tide.
Mm.
But yeah, I've never caught a proper solid Mulloway in the morning. There's a bit of a fact for you.
Oh,
Caught
yeah,
most
in
of
daylight
mine.
or?
Yeah, it was, when was it? About 7:15.
Yep.
So tide was around 10 o'clock. So it was an incoming tide, but there was a little bit of a bite time around then. So
Okay.
yeah,
what were you using for bait?
Tailor fillet.
Yep.
Yep. Dingle dangle, Tailor fillet. When I rocked up, it was a bit of a southerly blowing. I thought, oh, that's not great. Makes it a little bit uncomfortable. But my spot had a bit of weed along the shore there, and Mulloway do like hunting just behind that weed line, although it makes it challenging to fish.
Yeah.
If you got the right gear, sort of 14, 15 foot rods, and keep your line above that shore weed line, there's always fish hanging out the back. So
Yeah, gotcha. We just for anyone that's listening that hasn't gone through our back catalogue of episodes, we did do a pretty deep dive into Mulloway with Tim, which I think was episode 4 when we were, I think it was episode 4. I might be getting that wrong. But anyway, Tim Farnell, you can go and search it. We did a real deep dive into Mulloway for anyone that's keen to pick up on a few handy little tips there. We won't go into it today because we are short on time. But lads, there's a couple of lures sitting in front of you. So since both your episodes, we've obviously got our new studio. And what we have behind you guys there is the Lure Wall of Fame. So every guest that we've had on, we try to, get a little bit of piece of their fishing history living in here and becomes part of the Tall Tales history as well. So you guys have brought 2 really, really special lures. Tell us about them. So kick off with you, Tim. You've got the GT ice cream, the slim one there. What's the go?
So that's my 2-ounce skinny GT ice cream.
Hold it up just for the listeners, because these are one of my favourite Tailor lures.
Very simple lure.
Yeah.
Cast really well. Skip along the surface like a guardie.
Yeah.
Love using these when they're windy because they do cast a long way. And that's what I got my 94 centimetre Tailor up at Calbarry on.
Wicked.
Yeah, nice.
Mate, that's epic.
7.4 kilos.
And that's your PB?
Yes.
Wow, and you're giving us the lure for your PB?
Same clip, everything. It's got a harbour power twist on it. And
wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about that fish in particular. That's sick,
Did
man.
give us a rundown on it, but tell us again just for the
So I was on my way up to Murchison to fish up those spots, and we always drive up during the night and just camp on the cliffs to the south of town there and crawled down. Went to get to my spot, you got to walk about 500 metres over these nasty rocks, and got there and there was this bit of foam around. Had a few casts, had a few follows from some smaller fish, and then the big boy jumped on it. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's not a small Tailor, that's a proper Tailor.
You were saying you call that spot Jurassic Park just because every fish that you've ever encountered there is massive. Eh?
Yeah, they're all black backs.
Yeah.
So definitely Jurassic Park of the Tailor world.
Supersedes a greenback, the black back.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Mate, that must have been a good catch, because I remember we fished Murchison. It wasn't long after we interviewed you that first time, and you caught a fucking thumping Tailor, and I was like, Tim, you got to get a photo with that. And he was like, oh, no, it's not that big. And then I took a photo of it, and I was like, I sent you the photo later on. You're like, actually wasn't a bad Tailor. That was fucking huge, man.
You get used to seeing those big ones when you're a good angler. I wouldn't know about it, but you were saying John O'Ellis was the same when you were fishing with him for barra. Like he'd pull up a good 90.
He got a 92.
Barra.
Yeah, he got a 92 centimetre barra, and we were like, oh, we'll get a photo. He's like, fucking get a photo
Just
with
chuck
that.
it back.
Just threw it back. I was like, mate, let me get a video. So I fished with Jono, and I think we spoke about this on the last episode, but fizzes, all that sort of stuff. And mate, he is so dialed in. Like I was super impressed. And I think we missed a couple of, I was talking to you about it before, P Willie, with the fizzes, like they'll buff it, but quite often they don't actually hit where the lure is. You probably know more about it than me, but he went out the next night and got a 104 and a 105. And he's just that under the radar that he's like, yep, let's keep it quiet.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of the best
fish are
fishermen
going off though.
Oh, we'll shut the fuck up then if you want to keep it quiet. But
I won't say where, but mate, that's epic. We'll bang that straight into the wall. But P Willie, you've got something there that is
pretty iconic, really.
It's pretty much changed the history of fishing throughout the state. Like that is a pretty pivotal moment in the way that it changed the way I fish. It changed the way
for demersals.
Yeah, for demersals, it changed the way Rothy fish. What do you got there?
Yeah, well, that's the it's the bottom meat I tied up in the shed at 2:00 in the morning. It's probably not described as a lure. It's more of a bait carrying implement.
How's
So
it's
we spoke about this.
750 gram head on it, hey?
Yeah, like that one there. I just had a 500 gram head there, which was a prototype at the time, and I just wanted everything to be big, just so I could take photos of it. And it's a horrible looking thing. Look at that, but that's basically where I had the idea after fishing in the out off Two Rocks that day with Luke, and we failed dismally on jigs and plastics where we always bagged out. And it was the full moon, the northerly wind. They were not eating artificials, and they probably didn't even want to eat bait that hard. But that's when we were dropping
it's got
baits
Vexed
down.
written in art line pen on the back of the head.
Yeah, that was just a bit of an idea of some branding where I was going to put the logo. But that's what I tied out at 2:00 in the morning in the shed. And yeah, it's ugly. And I had a skirt on it, but disintegrated. So I didn't want to put another one on because it's not original, right? So everything's big, and that's what gave me the idea to build the bottom meat, which is a hybrid of using a jig to carry bait to the bottom on slow pitch outfits.
Yeah.
What fish have you've caught fish on this?
Shit, no. See that front hook there?
Yeah.
You could flick that and it'll fall off.
Yeah,
So,
right.
No, I haven't.
That was the prototype.
That was the
what they built
prototype.
off.
Yeah, to basically get the factory to. The factory didn't want to tie it. They said you're wasting your time. No one does this. You sure you want to do it? So, and that's because they.
What do you
only,
mean they didn't want to tie
well,
it?
because they
Like-
only make things that other people make.
Right.
They don't innovate things. In China, anything that you do differently, they say, "What the hell are you doing?" Like
They question you.
Yeah, yeah. So basically,
Trying to be innovative.
yeah, that's right. So basically, that's what we started off with, and then it's come a long way from there. But yeah,
Far out, man.
Well, mate, even it's changed into now the way we fish for whiting is different as well,
Yeah.
because like you guys have obviously brought out the whiting range and everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess it's probably a good opportunity to, there's a bit of not an elephant in the room, but obviously demersals are shut now. You guys have a business that's, does not purely based around demersals, but you've got a range
Big portion.
that is
of it,
a
yeah.
big portion of it. How have you seen the shift?
Well, the shift is participation is there. Like we're worried that participation would reduce dramatically, but the fact is people want to get out, they want to fish, and they want to eat stuff, right? They want to share time on the water with their family, and to be honest, like I love demersal fishing, but it's not a big part of what I do. I mean, if I've got some time to go out in the boat off the metro area, I'm not fishing for jewfish and snapper much, right? So basically what we've done is we've created a little bottom meat. We call it a micro meat or a bottom worm, and you put it in place of your sinker, or you can use it on its own. So basically with a paternoster rig where you got two hooks on there, you're always catching fish on the bottom. Your sinker's there doing stuff all apart from getting your rig to the bottom. So I've incorporated that into a baby little micro meat, and you can use it as a sinker, and the fish are piling onto that because it's puffing up the sand. So that style of fishing, but there's many other styles of fishing which are increasing. Surf fishing's gone through it's gone through a sort of a new phase, I think, because droning's come into it as well. But just your general beach fishing, there just seems to be so many more fish available to catch, not just snapper, which when I was doing all my club fishing in the 90s and early 2000s, you never caught snapper off the beach. Only during a storm, like you might pick one up, but you never used to catch snapper off the beach. And now there's that many snapper out there. I don't care what anyone says. This is what we're seeing. And mate, you go down there and sometimes you're targeting Tailor and you're catching snapper. But
It's been a common theme,
Yeah, and
as
the
to some of the last guests we've had on, is
100%.
saying how much like the snapper that old school fishermen have said, no, we never used to get them. Now we're getting them more regularly.
Yeah, well, these are lifetime fishermen that we're having on. They've been fishing for a long time in those particular areas. And what you're saying about the snapper, like I'll say it too, like it's so easy to catch them. And the confidence that you go to the beach with, if you try and target snapper, it's up there now, isn't it? It wasn't really something that you go down there confident that you would catch. But I
You're
think
right, yeah.
confidence is a key part of fishing, and people are going down there and having a crack and actually targeting snapper and using rigs and equipment that is created for that purpose too. So, yeah.
And the Mulloway
Cool to
fishing, you saw Tim's when he caught on the weekend. There would have been, I saw a dozen really good Mulloway caught just last weekend.
Mm.
So this is a good time of year. It's the back of the mullet run, really. But I think September, October is better, personally.
Off the beaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spawning, Robbie said.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a sort of a split in area. So I think closer to Perth this time of year is the best.
Yeah.
But when you get to Geraldton and north from there, it's definitely better September, October. I don't know why. It just seems to be that's when, like Wago, for instance, and, Port Gregory and Horrocks and all those areas,
They go nuts.
it's better in September, October.
With that metro area, how long will you reckon that will go on for on
Through
the beaches?
winter. Through winter.
Through all of winter.
Yep. Yeah, through winter. And I think summer's the worst time to fish for Mulloway. But look at those beaches around Mandurah, like, San Remo, Medora,
Singleton.
Golden Bay.
Golden Bay.
That is a Christmas time of
huge
year.
fish sent into the news the other day. Someone got a massive one at Golden Bay.
Yep. So November to now is when that fish is the best. So it's really weird. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's looked into the science of it or anything, but it's just really odd.
Well, you mentioned the mullet run just then. I think that's something
it's
that's
more
worth
March.
unpacking.
It's
there.
more March.
So when we talk about the mullet run, are we speaking about fish that are exiting the river and migrating north?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah, but there's not enough. I just don't think there's enough in the river that rush out into the ocean and go. I reckon a lot of those fish stay in the river year round. I don't believe in that. The run in and the run out.
Okay.
That's what we all believed during the early day Mulloway fishing. I just think it's a load of shit. Yeah. There is no run in and run out. You catch more fish at places like the Narrows, right? For instance, first rains, and then it's October's the month, right, for there. And I just think it's fish coming up to the bridge for what's hanging around and the activity going on at that bridge. That
choke point. They know that with that rain, it's going to have an influx of fresh water flushing down and pushing bait and sediment and nutrients down with it. They're waiting there to ambush, aren't they, behind those pylons?
Absolutely. But also Tailor fishing off the beaches, because I think there's a lot more stock out there, because back in the days, like I was saying when I was club fishing, when you used to go down to City Beach and Floreat on a, before the internet, that's people used to go down to the beach after work, right, and fish in summer. Remember along there, and you couldn't get a spot. Sometimes you had to walk 200-300 meters. You'd see mustard rods, alvies, and white buckets, right? Now, I think the internet, this is my theory, I think the internet has changed that, because people get home from work now and they get onto Facebook or YouPorn for Tim or whatever, and they start scrolling, and then before they know it, an hour's gone past, they look out the window and say, I can't be bothered now. Yeah. I seriously think it's
through the age verification, it's taken an extra half an hour.
His boys can do that.
Uploaded your ID.
His boys can do that. They know how to use that stuff. So, but I just think it has a huge impact, and I just don't think there's many fish being kept now. So all the youngsters are using lures, and they want to catch the fish and let them go. Firstly, because that's what they want to do, the sustainability, but they also can't be bothered cleaning them, right? Like that's a lot of people release fish because they can't be bothered cleaning them, or they don't know how to cook them. All right.
I reckon a lot of those fishermen as well have gone. I don't know if it was like this. I talked to my old man and that about what it was like, but a lot of those fishermen have probably got boats as well, and they've gone from the beach fishing into, we're not doing it at the moment, but they've become demersal fishermen, and they became the fish that they targeted. Yeah. And it got them off the beaches. And now with this closure, I feel like like we said, they're still keen, they're still fishermen, they're going back to their roots and going back to the fishing that they initially done. But you're spot on. Like I went and did a bit of filming and stuff with Goatman. It's probably 12 months ago now, and we were down at Scarborough. It was a perfect day for Tailor, perfect time of year. And there was one other guy that came down, and it was probably midweek. And Goatman does that fishing a lot, and he's like, mate, there's never anyone here. He's like, people will travel 2 hours to go and do this sort of fishing off, or an hour off Lancelin, 2 hours off Jury and Savannies. And he's like, mate, it's right at their doorstep. They could be doing it whenever they want.
And it's the best. Like you don't realize it until you do it. And when you get sand between your toes and you're casting a muley on a surf rig in and popping it in the rod holder, or you're just holding the rod on sunset, I always think, like, why don't I do this more often? It is
mental health wise, and like
it's just so relaxing.
You go down there for 2 hours and it's a reset, like I can completely agree. And it's just a matter of getting yourself off the couch and going out there and doing it. Like between like stretches of beach, you're north of Perth. Yeah. Like northern suburbs, great beaches through there, Quinns, Two Rocks, same things, Trig to Cottesloe. Like there's some bloody awesome fish to be caught.
Yeah. I love my spots up at Wilbinger, even like Jindalee. Sorry, Rothy.
No, that's Rothy's spots.
That's not, I don't fish that zone ever. I've got my own spots now, a bit closer to home.
How good is it? You can like take the 4B off road up there, and we are lucky. We need to look after that, treat the tracks carefully and all that, but coffee in the morning, flicking some lures around, that surface strike. Yeah. Put a few back. When the last time I was up there, I think we got 6 fish.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I had a good session up there last week too, around 2 rocks, wicked.
But
But
there's so many areas that we have that you just drive past. Like, you really don't understand how much area we have. Like, even obviously between 2 rocks and Moore River. I mean, there's a heap of areas in there, but there's so many better areas north. I mean, some people don't want to drive that far, right? But at the end of the day, it's an hour or 2 hours further. Just the area between Lancelin and Wedge, like, it's just some of the most
unreal.
beautiful
So many
beaches
good
I've
reefs.
ever seen.
gutters.
But then all that sort of, it's kind of a dead zone, but between Wedge all the way through to the other side of Lehman.
Definitely a dead
before you
zone.
get
Don't
to-
fish around Savannah.
Yeah, because it's not the
Well, there's not
traditional.
a lot of access there either.
Well, there is
Bushland,
now with Indian Ocean Drive. You can pull off 100 meters off Indian Ocean Drive in a lot of these areas, and it's not a surf beach. But there's Mulloway and Tailor there, like you wouldn't believe, and areas like Carson's and stuff like that. You know, just this side of Dongra. There's so much area through there that just does not get fished.
You don't have to fish on top of each other to find a
No.
spot to catch a Mulloway or a
People
Tailor.
just drive past it.
I think people are conditioned to find a surf beach too. That's a common misconception. Like, I see a lot of big Mulloway on social media. I'm not too well versed when it comes to finding them off the beach. The river's sort of been my thing. It's a goal for this year to get them more off the beach. But a lot of guys are fishing pretty flat ground too, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. You don't need big waves and current and pull and rip to catch these fish.
Yeah.
There is a lot more ooglies to get through in bay type fishing. I call it bay type fishing. Like, there's a lot more banjos and big rays and slobby gongs and all that sort of stuff. But the fish are there. Absolutely.
So when you put the dingle dangle on, it eliminates all the bottom feeders.
I want to ask you, actually, this is like just something that's come up with the beaches where you're catching Mulloway, potentially snapper, where there's not a lot of, we're talking, it's not a surf beach. There's not a lot of going on the shore, but the fish are there. Is there something that you think is beneficial to look for that's offshore that helps where the Mulloway come from? Like, are you looking for?
There's nothing offshore because generally there's an outer reef, which is a long way out.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing offshore. There's a few bumps and lumps and stuff, but that's for droners, not for beach guys. You're looking at a weed line.
So you think it's important for a Mulloway beach where, say, there's not a lot of structure, but they come in on the right tides and all that sort of stuff. You're looking for bait, but where are they going, when they're not feeding on the beach? Do you think a weed line out is important for that?
I like weed along the shore, but rips for me.
Rips.
As soon as I see a little bit of sand pulling off the shore, doesn't have to be a big rip, even a small one. I believe that's where like the whiting are going to congregate a bit more.
Yeah.
The weed lines on the shore break, you got herring cruising along it, eating the maggots coming out of the weed.
Yeah. So you break that down. The weed brings nutrients. The nutrients brings herring, bait fish. The bait fish bring herring, whiting, etc. The Mulloway and Tailor come in to eat all of them. It's a big sort of, food chain, really.
Yeah,
Kind
but
of little ecosystem.
like Willie was saying, like these bay beaches, but a lot of that, there's no weed on there. And occasionally you'll see a little rip.
Yeah.
There's heaps of little whiting in there. They're coming in.
Yeah.
Bait again.
Like somewhere like Hill River, right? There's a parallel reef that slowly makes it closer to the shore as you get towards the river mouth, right? And then a couple hundred meters past the river mouth, then the reef makes it to the shore. So being right up near that reef is not, you'd think it's more productive. You do get more snapper up there then, but definitely not better for Mulloway up there. And even Tailor, if you're casting on in the afternoon around the reef there, you'll catch more Tailor. But they cruise the beach. There's 2 different types of feeding Tailor there. There's one that cruises the beach, generally in mid-afternoon. And then there's other ones who halt fish into reef sections, which is up the other end. So there's a lot of situations like that. But you can fish 3 kilometres south of Hill River. And that is much better for Mulloway than right up near the reef.
It's an interesting point with the Tailor and different times and different spots, because I used to find that when I would trawl the beaches where I grew up, I'd always catch the Tailor in the sandy holes in amongst all the weed. But then when I was beach fishing, I always used to like to get out, like obviously off the end of the weed, and that's when they'd come out and sunset, they'd be coming out and feeding along the the sandy edges I found. So they were in two different spots. Like I'd never trawl them up where I'd catch them beach fishing during the day. Like through that plain sandy section, I'd just never get Tailor. They're always in amongst the structure. And
now we've got this overlay of drone fishing, which there's another dynamic to it where it's not your stereotypical guy that wears a flannel and, has a mullet and then uses his beach rod and, cooks a barbie on the beach. There's nerds fishing.
Yeah.
Right. There's another, it's a whole new kettle of fish. Like there's tech nerds who are now fishing, who have got it dialed in. They can fly a drone. They can, they're using electric reels. It's a whole new thing, and they're a different animal than your normal beach fisherman.
Database fisherman.
Yeah.
You're looking at me.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And these guys are they're doing their research on, they're using, I suppose, all the technology that they're probably better at using than the flannel wearer, right? And they're using Google Earth to find areas where they're going to deploy baits, and then they look at tracks and access. And they're nerds who probably couldn't catch a herring off a jetty, right?
I can catch herring off a jetty,
right? And they're putting all their technical knowledge together, and they're creating a whole new social scene of fishing, and they're doing well.
Well, it's probably one thing that you guys have done a lot of, shore-based snapper fishing, all that sort of stuff. We still have access to the land-based snapper with the demersal stuff that's going on at the moment. What are a couple of things that you would look for if, say, we've got some nerd listeners or whatever, someone that wants to catch a land-based snapper, because it's not as easy as just going out and being, there's a lump. Weather could be clear as day and there's no fish there. Like, what are you looking for?
Are we talking with a drone or casting?
Both, bit of both. Like, I'm sure they're
I'm not the guy that talked to about the drone thing, but
talk about casting.
But from a casting
rite of
thing,
passage.
If you're interested in it, now is the time, because what you want to do is get your gear ready and wait for the next blow, or the first blow of the year. Because what we had a couple of nights ago wasn't a blow, it was just a bit of wind, but a blow, like 3 days of heavy rain and blow, you just get your gear ready and just get down to your local rock wall. It doesn't matter which one it is. If it's accessible, it's a rock wall, because the blow, what it does is it knocks all the rock crabs off the rocks, pummels them into the water, all the bait and all the shit that's built up in those rocks over summer, that all gets washed out and pumped back into the water. Creates a burley trail. It's all bird shit, I reckon, as well on the rocks. And
Never
also
even thought of that.
Yeah, no,
Bird
that's what it is.
burley.
It's just bird shit, and just creates lots of bait fishing close to the rock. So the snapper are coming in to eat all that bait, crabs, and all the bait fish that are being attracted by the bird shit and all that stuff off, because bird shit's just fish.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you imagine how much crap builds up in those rocks over summer, Every night there's people, fishing for herring and tailor and yakkers and whatever. Yeah. So if you can get down there with a very simple rig, just half a herring, that's the best bait for snapper off the rocks, or anything like that, scalies or pike or whatever, but half a herring's the best. And you just get down there and just watch, see what people are doing. Right? It's not rude to watch. Ask some questions. It's not rocket science. It's time and knowledge. So you get down there after a blow. During a blow, if you're a snapper virgin, might be a bit hardcore. But
Go with it, mate.
But just go down there and just have a look at what people are doing. You automatically will drive right to the end of North Mole. It's not the place to fish. You'll see where you can tell people who know by looking at them.
You can tell a Guggen from someone who knows
you'll know. The people that look at you funny when you're driving past don't want you looking at them, right? And they're the guys, they don't want you looking at them because they know something you don't, right? Yep. So just go down there. Tim's more, I suppose, knows a lot more about the northern ones, and I'm probably more experienced on the southern ones. But anywhere in the Sound, South Mole, North Mole, all the way around there. Good. Even Cottesloe Groin is just an absolute dynamite spot. There's only room for a couple of people there, and get a few funny looks. A lot of hairies around there that don't want you fishing, but you can.
Well, even like the Sorrento rock groins. Like there's a photo in that fishing in the Wild West of Murray Shaw, and he's holding that massive pink snapper. That was caught on the third groin, the groin closest to the mat club.
Yep.
Like those, Tim Barlow spoke about those as being super productive and underrated rock groins. Like I've fished Hillary's quite a bit, seen heaps of snapper get pulled from that south wall. You got Ocean Reef now has all of a sudden become quite a productive spot. What else? Mindari, it's always
City
been
Beach.
good.
Mindari's always, that Mindari's good.
Yeah, got the Two Rocks. There's like literally all of the groins at Quinn, all of these spots, including the beaches in between, are reliable pink snapper spots.
Absolutely. So I reckon that's your best tip to start then.
Mhm.
And then all through winter you'll catch snapper off the rocks there, but you're not going to do it easily. You're gonna fish the tides and fish dawn and dusk. If you fish the tide, the turn of the tide, dawn and dusk, and all day after a blow, there is no the tides sure will be beneficial, but just fish. You get down and just fish the whole day after a blow, and just keep refreshing your baits. Don't leave your baits out there for 2 hours. Just every 10 minutes, wind them in and refresh it with another half a herring.
Well, that's one thing that I noticed with you guys. Obviously, it helps when you're fishing with the guys from Vexed who have the pre-made rigs. You clip them on, clip them off, have them all ready to go. Tim, you were an absolute joy to fish with because you had my baits pretty much ready to go when we fished at the Murchison, and you just kept reloading us, and it makes a huge difference. What are your pre-made rigs? I'll give Vexed a bit of a plug here, but what are you guys using? And what products have you got out for, say, someone that's fishing off the rock?
It actually seems like you guys have gone and developed a whole new range to make beach fishing a lot easier for people.
Yeah,
actually, I was checking them out at Luke's Shot Tackle West yesterday, and
we had a bit of a plan. So I said to Tim, we both are pretty serious in our shore-based fishing because we love it, right? And I've got the competitive tournament background of competition fishing, and I just said to Tim, I've never gone into the shop and bought a rig that I'd actually use, right? So, and no disrespect to other people that make rigs, but I don't think the people that are making these rigs, I think I might be out of my boat here, but I don't think they are fishing much.
No,
right?
there's nuance to it. There's
I just pull a rig
things
out and I can just pick it. There's the wrong that. So I said to Tim, why don't we sit down and develop some rigs that we would actually use, right? And because tying rigs is a part of fishing, right? And I used to enjoy it so much. I don't have the time now, seriously. I do not have the time to tie rigs. So we sat down and we tied rigs, and we didn't have to do any testing or anything. We just tied the rigs we use. And then we got them made. We got them custom made overseas on a mass production.
Yeah.
So we've developed a rig called a rock and mole. So it's basically a bit of akadaka mixed in with, it's just a rock and mole rig. So it's basically a very simple rig. It's just a 360 three-way crane with a double snell and a trace to your sinker. We've got a special little long cast sinker clip, so you can clip your bait to it, so your bait's not flopping around.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And not that you always need distance when you're casting off the rock, but you do in the storm, I'm telling you. You can be too far out. That's the other tip. Don't be too far out. But also we've put flotation on it. Now the flotation just picks the bait up, makes them more visible, and sure you don't get as many crabs and stingrays.
So that's the dingle dangle you're talking about.
Well, that is a dingle dangle, not so much on the rock and mole rig. We use that as a running flotation, so that sits above the bait.
Gotcha.
So, and then we have a dingle dangle rig, which you tie the bait around and you can clip it down and it floats up off the bottom.
Question for you, Tim. How long did it take to convince P. Willie not to make the floats dick-shaped?
Wow. And we're going to be called something.
Oh, yeah. I'll say it. Could I say it?
Yeah, have
the
a little
man
bit
pond?
of string hanging off it.
So I wanted to call this is where Tim's going to step in and daddy me. But
I'm not doing any editing, Tim.
No, I wanted to call the dingle dangle a man pond, right? And then, because it is,
it looks like a tampon.
Well, yeah, it kind of does. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to try and charge them with no GST, and because we're
God.
no, I said, listen, let's try and bypass the tampon tax here. And he goes, you can't be doing. I said, but yeah, it'll make a huge thing. He goes, you'll be on the news. I said, that's what I want.
Perfect.
Great. This is the conversation
Yeah.
you and I had.
So
It's got the built-in bait thread.
because
Hanging off the back.
because the dingle dangles, it's by no means. I've had a few people attack me saying, you didn't create the dingle dangle. So whoa, I said, like, we did not create the dingle dangle. There's quite a story to
You're
it.
very honest with
I think
that.
I touched on it before, but it's like a pommy idea where they used to put carp boilies on under the hook to give the hook nice proud hook up rate, and then the South Africans put foam around it and all of that. So I wanted to call it the man pond, and Tim said no, and then he gave me a daddy talk again and said, you can't be doing stuff like this.
I think it's worked out pretty well the way it came out. Mate.
But it pulls your bait off the sand, stops it rolling around the sand, gets away from crabs, pickers,
makes it more
and
visual.
stingrays more than anything. That's the biggest pain in the ass is when your bait gets taken by a stingray and then 50 minutes, 60 minutes of your bloody fishing time's taken up trying to get a carbonate ray in too. So
Yeah. But there's some other things like bait thread as well, which, when there's things banging your baits like little tarwine and little undersized shit fish are belting your baits off, just mummifying your baits with bait thread is, it just gives you so much more advantage to actually having something on there when the fish comes along. Because sometimes your baits are gone in 30 seconds, right? A big head bait's different. I love head baits, really, really like them. But yeah, bait thread, just whack it on and keep that bait in place.
Yeah.
You can't really use too much of it, eh?
No, well, you probably can't. And just keeping the hook, it's not just keeping the bait on the hook or keeping the bait on the dingle dangle, it's keeping the hook point in the position you need it to be. Sometimes the hook point, the bait moves around and then it fouls on the bait. So the hook point goes into the middle of the side of the herring, and your chances of hooking up is a lot less when that happens. So by positioning your hook into the bait and mummifying it, you get that hook point where you want it, where you need it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question just before we move on from that. Tim, you're fishing off the beach a lot more. I've noticed just through our discussions and that you've always got sand between your toes. Do you have a different approach for snapper from the rocks? For me, it's always been a pretty similar sort of rigging technique and whatnot. If anything, I run a little bit more leader to my sinker from the crane swivel just to keep it out of the sinker and that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just a paternoster rig. You don't need the pulley rig essentially off when you're fishing for the rocks. You need a real simple rig you can get up quickly.
Yeah.
Longer trace. If you do snag your sinker, when you get your fish in close, you can snap it off.
Yeah.
Guys will fish like a 40-pound leader instead of 80-pound for the rest of the rig.
Yeah.
So it's real
So
simple.
80 pound to your hooks and your leader, but then down to your sinker, you're going 40 pounds. So you
Yeah,
can put a bit of,
if you snag
oomph
up.
into it.
See,
and
I
break
don't
your
do
sinker
that.
up.
I got a rule that you don't mix different brands
'Cause
or
it
breaking
tangles?
strains. Yes,
Right.
because each line brand or breaking strain has its own style.
Yeah.
Right, its own style in terms of the way it wants to twist and that. So
Yeah, and
that makes a
stretch.
lot of sense having 80 to the hooks and 40 to the sinker. But over time of fishing, I run exactly the same brand and breaking strain, even though you don't need leader to your sinker, you get way less tangles. And what I do is I do a sacrificial knot to the sinker.
So
I'll do a two-turn-
different breaking strains.
Yes, so I'll do a 2-turn blood knot. So I can pull that pretty bloody hard, but if it push comes to shove, the sinker will bust off.
Yeah, got
So that's
ya.
what I do. But that just shows like Tim and I do things different
No, but
ways.
they both make perfect sense. That
Yeah.
might be something that
Same principle behind both of them, really.
Yeah, and do you need to be using extra leader? Leader's more expensive than the 40-pound fishing line he's using,
Yeah.
right? Do you need to be doing that? But I just found over years, I just get a lot less fighting when I use the same.
Mm.
Something. Yeah.
And what about your approach on the beach, Tim? Is there anything different?
I've fished paternoster rigs off the beach as well.
Yeah.
Like at the moment I'm fishing 2 rods. So I've got a single hook circle with a dingle dangle on.
Yeah.
I love that dingle dangle bait. I think there's a lot more work to be done in that space.
Mhm.
But then I will run a double snell as well.
Yeah.
So that fish on the weekend was a double snell with a dingle between it. Our South African friends won't like that because that's not traditionally way people fish dingle dangles. But I had the bait wrapped in bait thread around that. So I had 2 clear hook points and that was on a pulley rig.
Yep.
So there's always that Mulloway stories about you need to run a running rig. So when they take it, they can feel it unimpeded. And that's a big thing in the Swan River. like running beam sinker rigs in the Swan.
Yeah.
But I run a pulley rig on one rod and I run a fixed paternoster on another rod.
I
Two
ran
different
that
techniques.
paternoster with the dingle dangle in between for my only beach Mulloway, actually. So I can vouch for it there. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is this could get into a deep conversation here. 2 types of hooks. You got 2 types of fish too. So you got snapper and you got Mulloway. Personally, for me, my theory is that I would, for snapper, prefer to run a J hook because of the way that a snapper hits the bait. I don't think a circle hook is going to be as productive as a Mulloway that's maybe an implode feeder that's going to swish and swill that bait around in its mouth. What do you guys reckon?
I reckon you underestimate the way a snapper eats. They're a snaffler, so they just smash it and they just keep eating it.
Yep.
They just want to get their mouth as full as possible.
Yep.
Traditionally, I've always used J hooks, but I'm starting to go towards the circle above a dingle dangle. So obviously, the way a dingle dangle's used is tie the bait around the dingle dangle and then lightly pin it to the bottom of the circle.
Gotcha.
So that involves the fish having to eat all of that dingle dangle and bait to get the circle in the mouth. But I feel a snapper will keep, a Mulloway will mouth it and spit it sometimes, not always, not usually, but sometimes. But a snapper, if it does commit to a bait, generally you don't use live baits for snapper, you use just a cut bait. They just absolutely just go nuts on it, like Tim, like in a bowl of custard. They just go for it. So they'll just keep eating and eating. And a lot of people have switched from J's to circles, especially down south in that sort of area between Bunbury and Dunsborough, that area. And if you're patient with it, they will eat all of that bait and get pinned. And once you're pinned on a circle, the chances of it coming off is a lot less.
Pretty slim. Yeah. You've almost got 2 barbs there that need to exit the fish before it gets off.
Exactly right. Yeah. So also don't hook as many smaller fish. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass when you're trying to catch a bigger snapper and you're getting these, 30, 40, 50 centimeter ones on there. They're not going to hook up as much on that 60, 80 circle above the bait. So yeah, I mean, but you just got to go with your gut and be confident with it.
Yeah. I've run probably a circle on the top of the snell and then a J on the bottom of the snell. And the idea there is that if it hooks with the circle in the jaw, you've then got a sort of a swinging J hook that might come around and get him in the back of the gills. But
yeah, that's the way I've always fished, in terms of fillet baits.
Yep.
That is the best of both worlds because you've got a bait that's going to, if you put it in a rod holder and the fish takes it, it'll naturally just set without you having to set it. But if a Tailor, a big Tailor hits that, Tailor are no good on circles generally because they're an implosion hit, like a mackerel. They just smash it and you're either on or you're off.
Yeah.
And that bottom J hook will set a lot better.
There's no wrong or right way to do it, really.
No,
I know Graham Dudson runs 4 hooks on his snells and the top one is a circle, a smaller circle, and his hook sizes are actually different to fit the fillet bait. So
yeah, it just depends what sort of bait you're using as well. Yeah,
that's a good question as well because you can't always get a Tailor fillet. If you're not running a Tailor fillet, what are you using? So something that someone wants to go catch a snapper or a Mulloway.
There's one answer. Tim will tell you.
Mullet.
Yeah.
Mullet
Stinky,
definitely.
oily.
Yeah, my last 2 Mulloway have been, one on the weekend was Tailor fillet and the one before that was on the mullet fillet. So
are you fussy with your bait and where you get it from? You just buying store-bought mullet?
He's not, I am.
Yeah.
But that Tailor I caught, the one I caught on the weekend was a Tailor from the weekend before that I froze, and that's against everything that I stand for. But it was there. I filleted it. I whacked it on, caught fish.
I'm actually going up Mulloway fishing tomorrow with Robbie and Robbie Richards and Alex Carter. I've got 6 Tailor in the fridge from my last session. So now you've just decreased my confidence a little bit there, Tim, with frozen Tailor.
You're going with them. You'll get them, mate.
Yeah,
Don't worry about that.
We'll find them, hopefully.
Just going back to your hook conversation quickly. So the fish I caught on the weekend was on octopus hooks.
Yep.
They were our new YM hooks. I'll plug that quickly. They'll perform beautifully, so check them out. Fish swallowed the bait right down. So that fish didn't hit my bait and take off and my rod didn't buckle over in the rod holder. I was watching my rod and the line just went slack really, really quickly. So I saw a slight little knock and then my line just went really slack and I picked it up and it swallowed it right down. So those J hooks were right down its gut and my leader was literally hanging out of the fish's mouth.
Yeah.
The fish I caught before that, which was on one of our pre-tied dingle dangle rigs, was on a Mutsu circle, perfectly pinned in the corner of the mouth.
Mewtwo's are more of a square angle change coming out of the shank of the hook, aren't they?
But it's a circle hook with a more of a sharper bend on it.
Sort of what you
essentially.
use, for a King George whiting?
Yeah, similar to that.
hook?
Yeah, just a
okay.
heavier version of that. But I believe when you're fishing circles with the grapnel sinkers, when the fish hits the bait and turns, the grapnel sinker will help set that circle as well.
Yeah.
Whereas that one on the weekend with the twin octopus hooks, like swimming towards me, so like the wine line quickly set the hook. But most people would have missed it. They wouldn't have seen it. So that's another tip. Watch your rod. Fish aren't always going to hit it and bend over and take line. Sometimes they'll pick it up, and jewies do that. We've seen that where they pick the bait up and
Barrel will do it as well at times.
yeah, swim towards you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, now, you mentioned Tim eating custard, Willie. Now,
Where's this going?
Yeah, it might seem weird, but Tim, since our last interview, you had a bit of a health scare, and so you had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Almost claimed you, which we're bloody very thankful that it didn't. But tell us a little bit about that experience, and also how it's changed your outlook on life and fishing from there on out, because like
it's a huge
matter of
thing,
half an
Rev.
hour, you may not have been here. Like, tell us about what happened.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I was over in Queensland on a work trip actually. So flew into Brisbane, did a talk night on the Gold Coast, and that was all good. But I had a bit of indigestion, what I thought was indigestion, and didn't feel right. But I had a cold couple of weeks leading into it after the tackle show, and just kept pushing on. Went down to Coffs Harbour, went fishing with the boys down there, and just on the beach cold, and just felt a bit off. But again, I just thought it was indigestion, and pushed on and drove 6 hours up to the Sunshine Coast for a work conference up there, and just kept going on with it. But then all of a sudden just got the sweats on real quickly, and next thing I know, I'm in an ambulance and strapped up and going straight into surgery. So had a 100% blockage in the main artery, which is the widowmaker. So it wasn't far off going, and boss man just landed at the airport and literally got a phone call as I was getting wheeled into surgery. And yeah, pretty
I
scary.
remember I called you that day for something, Billy, and you were like, I'm on the way to the hospital. I'm fucking for what? You told me. It was like, yeah, it was pretty.
It's
It was
probably
very scary for us as well.
for everyone. It's a bit of a wake up call, I guess, around the symptoms. And I know you're pretty big on now trying to, raise a bit of awareness if you are getting symptoms to get checked out. But you're a, healthy, young sort of man as well. That last person you'd expect to have a heart attack. And I think, like you said, you ended up in an ambulance. But part of that was you going, something's not right here.
Yeah. I suppose it's just one of those, knew something wasn't right. It's not those heart attacks you see in the movies where you grab your chest and you fall to the ground.
Yep.
It was just, I really thought I had indigestion, but I couldn't burp. That was a big thing for me. So everyone out there, if you're not feeling right and you got indigestion and can't burp, go to the doctor. Even if you're any sort of issue, just go get checked.
Doctor will be getting heaps of people going there after a big meal now. No,
Yeah.
but seriously, it is important. And they actually said to you, if it could have been the difference between half an hour or not, you could have not been here.
Yep.
The godsend was I was at the airport when I got a phone call taking off. So that was the worst sort of, it's not about me, but the worst 5 hours flying to Brizzy, because as my flight was taking off, I got a phone call like 2 or 3 in a row. So I was about to go into flight mode. We're a bit late sometimes, and I took the call, and the guy said, I think Tim's having a heart attack. And so I had to sort of sit in the plane and landed in Brizzy and thought, shit.
Praying.
What's happening?
Yeah. So anyway, the godsend was Tim couldn't get into the room because it was under my name. So if he was able to get into the room when he was feeling off, he was going to go in there and lay down.
Obviously.
And that would have been
Lights out.
curtains. Yep. So
Fucking hell.
So godsend to those pain in the ass hotels that don't let,
Yeah.
your mistress, your boyfriend, or your best mate.
Your boyfriend. Yeah, that would have been P. Willie. What's he up to this weekend?
So, Tim, I spoke to you after that, checking on you, and you said something to me. We were talking about your priorities in life and stress and how you handle that sort of stuff. You've had a pretty big outlook change from just going off that conversation. I noticed you've been fishing a little bit more too.
Yeah.
How's that changed your outlook on life and going fishing and spending time with your boys, which I know is a huge, huge thing for you?
Yeah, just got to start saying yes to things. I always say no, and lucky like P. Willie's been looked after me like a champion, like having a boss that gives a shit about you. But also you reassess your goals in life, and not everything's about work. You know, you got to enjoy life and enjoy your family and all the rest of it. But it is still a battle, you know, like I look healthy and fit and all the rest of it, but still think in your head, like I could have been gone at 41.
Yeah.
Done. Game over. So I've still got plenty of fish I've got to tick off the list.
Yeah. It kind of reinforced for us, like, that, you know, it was pretty early on in the journey that happened, and you guys were pretty early guests, especially you, Tim, and it kind of reinforced, we spoke about it before we pressed record, that what we're doing here and talking to you guys and hearing your fishing stories, it's really important for us to do, because had you have gone and had you have not been here with us still, at least we've recorded an hour and a half of you sharing not only your fishing knowledge, but what it's meant to you, and something, you know, you brought your boys in for that first one too, and they got to sit there and you spoke about Western Angler, and you know, you met your wife and all that sort of thing, and through your fishing with your father-in-law and all that sort of stuff. It was a really special thing to hear how much of a impact fishing has had on your life. So for us to hear that, it put things into perspective, and we're like, all right, we're actually doing something good here, as minute as it was.
Yep.
I guess when we started this podcast as well, it was a similar thing. It was like, we need to get these stories out before they vanish, and we wouldn't have thought that you would have been, as a 41-year-old, you know, we wouldn't have thought that, but it's more for us, it was like the granddad age. You got to get these old school stories out before they vanish with the next generation. So for us, it was like, well, it gave us even a fresh outlook on what we were doing and how, you know, important it is to get people's stories out there. So like I said, we're bloody pumped that you're here. I've managed to fish with you a couple of times since, which has been wicked for me. I learnt so much that night we had on the river, and hopefully we can do a couple more, tick off that big 50-pound Mulloway, mate. That'll be the one.
It's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I ain't going to catch it. I've got plenty of years ahead of me. That's for sure.
And the whole plan was to, you know, when I took Tim on, like, 'cause we've been mates for years, and I took him on during COVID, the plan was to do more fishing.
Yeah.
And that plan has not.
Well, look at the growth that you guys are seeing with not only Vexed, but the Assassin brand and all that sort of stuff.
But when we fish together, we kill it, eh?
We're doing all right.
So
we're doing all right.
So
when we fish.
The plan is, like, you know, to do more fishing, and I will make that happen. And to give Tim flexibility, I think it's you know, as one of my, you know, mates and one of my workers. And you know, here's a stat for you. As a 42-year-old man from Perth, he's going to Bali for the first time. Can you believe that?
Well,
Yes.
mate, I've got 2 years to go. I've never been to Bali.
Oh, really?
No, never
No
been there.
way.
Jesus Christ. From
No,
Rothy
I go to Broome, and that's as far, like, or Darwin or whatever,
Man,
but
these
never done to
days,
Bali. No Barramundi there.
I'll go ahead and say it. These days, you're actually not missing out on much.
No.
It's just like going to Canada. But anyway,
Actually, before,
carry on.
I actually wanted to touch on some Tailor fishing, because you guys
that's where I was going next.
Yeah, good, because I know, you know, everyone here has caught Tailor, but you guys have had, Rothy, you've been having some good sessions lately as well, and you wanted to touch on, you've been getting some questions about it as well. So
I have, yeah. So with Tailor season coming up, obviously you can catch Tailor literally every day of the year, depending on how you target them. And for a lot of people, Tailor was, for me, it was my first foray into lure fishing. It was where I was introduced to lure fishing. I've got a really soft spot in my heart for Tailor. I absolutely love him, and it's something that I'll do until the day I die. But coming into winter is, from my experience, when we really start to see what we call the greenbacks, or as Tim just said, the blackbacks. The bigger fish come in and they're all fattened up. They're hungry. They're on the reefs and they're within casting distance with sand between your toes. So it's one of my favourite styles of fishing, and I have been getting a lot of questions ever since we started the podcast. And I apologise to anyone that does message us either through Tall Tales or Lecca on his account, or myself even, that asks for information and tips. I'd love to help you guys out, you know, one-on-one, but we just get that many bloody messages and questions that we can't possibly answer them all. So I got one from this young lad, Charlie Newman, and I said to him, mate, I cannot spend the time with you that I want to get you into Tailor fishing. But how about you submit a listener question? And he did, but I think as part of the actual podcast, it's better to do a deep dive. So basically what Charlie said to me, he goes, mate, I've been trying my hardest to find a Metro Tailor on lures. I've been casting Halco twisties and shore catch nights, casting metals around. He goes, I just can't get one on a lure. I can't nail them down. So with the guys that we got in the room and myself and you, Lecca, I thought we could do a bit of a deep dive into Tailor to get these guys on the right track to find a Tailor. So as we said, the time of year. So we're coming into it now. Feel free to chime in here, lads, too. So for me, I start fishing for Tailor in February, but it's a different type of fishery. I'm fishing mainly on the beaches around sort of between Hillary's and Mullaloo there, Trigg, Cottesloe. It's more of like the sandier areas. But coming into April now, this will be out in May, the reefs is where I have the most fun. And that's where you start to get those bigger fish. So
winter, mate.
Winter's the best for sure. So when it comes to gear choice, lads, you guys are the gear nerds here. What sort of outfit should someone be running for a Metro Tailor on lures?
I'll start with what I fish with currently. So I'm fishing with an Infinity 8'6" Assassin, which is that one over there.
Yeah, nice.
With a TD Black 4000 on it. With 20-pound braid.
Yep.
Real simple, 40-pound leader. Nice and light. I can cast 30, 40 gram metal, stick baits, poppers on that. No problems. The important thing is the clip as well, because I change lures a lot. So when I start fishing at first light, I'm fishing a popper or a GT ice cream. And then as the sun comes up, I'll switch over to a stick bait as the fish drop deeper in the water column.
Yep.
So that's the gear I'm fishing with.
Yep. So I'll chime in there too. So I use very similar setup rod and reel wise. Something that I put a lot of emphasis on with all of my fishing is the quality of the line that you're buying. So these days you can actually get a really good quality line that's not going to burn a massive hole in your pocket. Something like a J-Braid Expedition, I actually really rate that for sort of a mid-tier, I won't say budget because it is a little bit more expensive than your standard cheaper lines. But A, it's thin, and B, it's got what we call a hydrophobic coating. Maybe you guys, Willie, I know you're the Daiwa rep, so you could probably chime in a bit here more, but what that means is that if you imagine a towel, if it had a hydrophobic coating on it and you threw it in the water would effectively bead off it. Whereas if it doesn't have that coating, it's going to soak in water. Fishing line is the same. So once it gets wet, it's getting heavier, it's getting wider, more friction through the air, and it's effectively going to minimize your casting distance, which can be really important for tailor fishing when you're trying to reach those further out holes and gutters or whatever. So I put a lot of emphasis on the line, something like a J-Braid Expedition. If you want to go a little bit more expensive, something like a Saltiga line. Varavas has been a really reliable one for me too, but they are expensive. I'd spend more money on my line before I would my rod personally. And the other thing that Tim mentioned just there is having a clip, but also that comes down to being mobile. So being able to change on a dime. So for me, I've got for a long time, I ran a Salty Crew waste pack that fit a little lure container in it that I've got down here. So this is a double-sided lure container. You open it up. None of my lures are tangled up. They're all got their own individual spot. I can pull that out. I'm not messing around. I can whack that on with a clip, a quick access clip. So being mobile and actually being able to move on foot, you don't need a heap of gear. You need your rod, your reel, couple of lures, spare leader, scissors, pliers, and some clips, and you're on your way.
There's a couple of mistakes people make, in my opinion, is don't have a swivel. You don't need a swivel unless you're using a twisty or something.
There's a difference between a swivel and a clip. Right?
Yes, but don't use a swivel on your clip.
Mm-hmm.
Use a clip without a swivel.
Yep.
Because the swivel is taking action out of your lure.
Yep.
People just don't realize that. I know some really good anglers and they use a swivel with a clip on it. And I said, what are you doing? Like, you should be better than this. So use a clip without a swivel. Okay. And you don't need a swivel to attach your braid to the leader. Like a lot of old school guys will do that. If you don't know how to tie an FG or a PR, that's the most important thing to learn to tie. So you're coming down from your braid to a leader, and don't use a long leader. So people, again, guys who I respect massively in terms of them as an angler, more than a human being, they use too much leader. I just don't think you need that much, because when you're fishing for tailor, the best conditions are usually a sou'wester. The wind's coming kind of across you.
So this is what I reckon is important as well, because it sounds like the young fella's actually using some gear that would work, like he's using Helgo twisties are known to work. There's better lures and stuff out there now. What are the conditions and what are some of the maybe location changes that he should start looking at? Because if he's not catching a tailor, and time of day.
So the best time to catch tailor on lures is before the sun's up in the morning, right? You will catch them all day, certain tides, and I think the morning bite is much better than the afternoon bite
I've found that too,
for
with
lures.
a couple of little subtle changes.
So you never ever start off with a metal. So while it's still dark, you always start off with something like this or a popper, always, and that's when you got the best chance of catching a big fish.
Yep.
Now, once the sun's up, stick baits and poppers usually are a lot harder to catch the fish on. Once that sun comes, through the dune onto the water, that's when you change the metals. All right. So if you're starting with a metal first thing in the morning, you have to wind faster, and I don't think the fish chases well when it's dark. So you want to fish slightly slower. That's why, stick bait, popper while it's still dark, and when the sun comes up, then change to a metal. That's what I always used to do. And the fish size are generally, you'll generally catch bigger fish on the bigger, hard-bodied poppers and stick baits earlier in the morning. And as the sun goes up, you start with an 85 gram a large metal, and then slowly go down to something to about 20 grams.
And as a young angler, the question might be fishing around the reef. Do you have a preference with high tide, low tide? What should they be looking for there as well?
Dawn.
Yep, just dawn.
So if you start off when it's dark and you fish through the sun's up, that is your best time.
Yeah.
If the tide coincides, great, but the perfect tide in the middle of the day on most areas where you catch tailor is like you're still
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I still don't think you got much of a chance
to it. Like I've definitely noticed a few patterns where. So what I'll start by saying is no 2 days are the same. I've had days where I thought, yeah, I've got it dialed in. I'm going to nail him today, and I've gone up to my spot that's super reliable, and I've not caught a thing. So, for example, last weekend I went up to a little zone that I fish with my mate Anton Pope, who works at Complete Angler in Nedlands, and we always do well when we go tailor fishing. But this one spot, for some reason, it wasn't working. I was there an hour before the sun came up, had a little snooze in the car. I got there just as the sun was sort of like just that break of dawn, you know what I mean? And threw lures around for an hour, threw the kitchen sink at him. That whole tackle box got thrown out there, and I could not get a bite. But when I did notice the bite came on was actually when that sun broke the top of the dune, started getting a little bit of sunlight on the water, and it was as if the tailor got, okay, the sun's coming up now, last little bit of feed that we're going to have. And when the sun actually, my lures were in that area where the sun was hitting the water, that's when I started to get a really hot bite for 15 minutes. So maybe it was that last bit of panic, like just before they go into sort of their resting throughout the day, or whether it was the sun hitting the lure and getting a little bit of flash and sparkle, I'm not sure. But there's always little things that are going to change depending on how the fish are feeling. And the other thing is with the tides too, it's probably not so much the tide that I'm paying attention to. Obviously, your tides are going to affect how much water you've got on top of a reef platform, which, determines whether or not that particular spot is going to be fishable or not. You don't want to be snagging up. You need some sort of water on top of that reef to be able to fish it. But that doesn't mean that the body of water next to that reef isn't going to hold tailor. They might be underneath a little shelf. They might be waiting to ambush. So you just got to change your tactics a little bit. But what I would look at more so than, especially around the reefs, more so than the tides, is the way that the water is moving around that piece of structure. So I've got one spot in particular that I know both on an incoming tide and an outgoing tide, the water only runs one way because of the shape of that reef. And I know that the tailor are probably going to be facing into the current, waiting for the bait to be pushed over the top of that reef, and they'll wait there and smash the bait as it comes off. So if you can get your lure running with that current, you're going to be in with a bloody good chance.
The other thing I would say through my experience, and I don't know what you boys feel about this, but we speak a little bit about reef here as well, but don't underestimate a rip and some milky water and the way the sand's moving, particularly in those bigger bays. If you have got a backpack on and you're walking, that they sometimes are just dynamite for tailor.
We talk about current lines and changes and that sort of thing. You spoke about milky water there, Lec. Something that I've, sorry, Tim, I know you were going to chime in there. Sorry to interrupt you, but what I've found is there is a difference between dirty water and foamy water. For Tailor on lures, I will always cast first into the clear water that has foam rolling over the top of it. So if you can find an area with a bit of swell, that a wave is going to wash over the top of a reef, and then you've got a clean bit of maybe blue water, but occasionally it has that foam rolling over the top. That for me just screams Tailor all the time. So it's not dirty water. The sand, I think, that gets puffed up and that really sandy, rippy section, for me, it's never really produced all that well. But maybe the outside of that rip on the line where that rip is sort of going from the dirty water to the clean water, for me, has always done quite well.
Some open beaches, especially a couple of hours north of here, like you're saying, Lecca, I've caught fish on medals like mid-morning at the back of those rips.
Yeah.
So you cast out the back of them and they're sort of hanging around it. I didn't do a lot of that sort of fishing, but there's some beaches up north I've definitely done well mid-morning on medals. But that foamy water, that's the number one tip.
What about your experience there with sort of, I guess, the dirty water and the foamy water? There is a difference. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think some of those foamy spots, the fish just sit in one spot. They'll sit underneath it. Whereas the dirty, rippy water, they're moving through it in schools a bit more, so they're not hanging in it. So those spots where you fish and I fish, sometimes I'll just sit underneath that foamy water in 30 centimetres, just below the surface, and that's where the sinking stick bait, getting down a little bit further.
Yeah, and if you think about the way that Tailor is stationed up and it's looking for its next little bit of prey item, I think this is where these GT ice creams perform in pretty much all conditions, because you can throw one over a hole, wind it over the reef, and as it comes over the reef into that hole, think about the Tailor as looking up. If you're looking up at the sun and you put your hand in front of the sun, you don't notice the colour of your skin. You just see the silhouette. So if you think about it in that way and think of how is that lure going to contrast against the light of the sun or even the moon for that matter, if you're throwing lures at night, that can kind of influence your lure choice, and that's where action comes into play and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, there's a hole up at Dirk Hartog that I fish a lot. Can't wait to get up there in 6 weeks, but there's
just rub it in again.
After Bali. He's going to have his Bintan fix, and then he's going to have his Dirk Hartog fix.
There's a hole that we fish there. It's a weird spot to describe, but it's foamy water, and I use big Rooster 160s there, like big bodied lure, and I work them really slowly. Like I'll do a bloop and just let it sit there. Because there's so much water rushing in there quickly, because it faces southwest, so the swell rolls into it a lot of the time. And you sort of need to make a lot of noise, a lot of action quickly, and then let it pause, and then they sort of come up from underneath. But just a different zone, the fish.
Yeah.
But there's another layer as well that you haven't really touched on as much, and that's bait. So you guys are you're talking about looking for foam, looking for rips and stuff. Now with bait, it's not visible, but I know where there's bait from just the experience of fishing.
As in where it's holding up?
Yeah,
right.
And the first cast determines whether you're going to catch fish or not. And when your lure hits the water.
Does the bait spray?
Yeah. And it's a weird bait because it's not, these are like, I got some spots where you'd probably never cast. I probably wouldn't cast there, but sometimes you're just walking along and you're casting just to, make time. And I've got some spots where I know there's bait, and they're they're a small kind of a little smelt, probably a hardy head of some sort. I'm not a marine biologist, but they're a weird little bait fish. And they're the ones that smell like herring. That herring smell?
Yeah.
We used to call them smelt, but they're probably a hardy head of some sort. And when the lure hits there and they spray, and this is where I catch Tailor mid-morning and mid-afternoon, where there's bait. And you don't see them chopping the bait. You can't see the bait, but when your lure lands and there's bait.
Spook them.
Yeah, and this is not an area you'd normally cast for Tailor. That's experience of fishing.
And that's a good point as well, is if you are walking and you've got a backpack on, put heaps of casts in and don't walk too quick, because you want to work that whole stretch. You might catch the fish as they're moving from one spot to another, or you might come across a spot that you don't realize why it holds fish, but fuck, they hold fish. So
the best thing ever that I did for my fishing with Tailor was I hopped on my bike. Like rather than driving, we have with the metro area at least, you can hop on your bike from pretty much Scarborough and ride all the way down to Mindari, pretty much, Burns Beach area, and you can pull in everywhere, and I guarantee you'll find a spot every 100 metres. So for me, my best mate, Jeevan, said to me, he goes, man, I've cast everywhere for this before we cracked it. I've gone everywhere. I've tried my hardest, like can't catch tailor lures. I'm starting to think it's a myth. And I'm like, well, no, I'm going to put a bit of a deep dive in here. And that's actually how I found so many spots. Like I've got spots literally every 100, 200, 300 metres from Scarborough all the way up to Two Rocks. There is sections of our coast that hold tailor all of the time. And the point that you just made is a great one. Like I've got some of these spots, they might only be as big as this table that you know the tailor's going to hold. And it might only have 1 or 2 fish in there, but I'll put 5 casts in just to make sure, see if anybody's home. If they're not, I'll keep walking, keep moving. So yeah, don't think that you need this spot that looks great over here and great over there. It doesn't have to be a 30 metre long stretch that just looks amazing. It might be one little bommy or one little hole or overhang or ledge that will hold those fish.
The other thing, lastly, that I'll add to the tailor thing is I don't have a good lure casting tailor spot that is a good bait fishing tailor spot. They're two distinct, different spots.
Great
right.
point.
So, and yeah, it's really weird because you even when you're catching them on lures and then the sun comes up and you switch to bait, I don't have many spots where I can efficiently catch tailor on bait in the same spots as lures.
Why is that?
Well, they're feeding
snagging up.
differently. Like they're feeding differently, and a normal surf beach is the best place to catch tailor on, let's say a muley and a sinker, right? And you're casting into a normal surf beach, and you're just not catching tailor. It's a different spot. You got to look for. I like looking for reef more so. You guys are more into rips and stuff. I'm like S-bend reef dude.
Yeah, I like the reef too.
I like that, but like for S-bend for example, that my 3 or 4 best tailor spots for lures, like you can't bait fish there, or if you can because of the reef, it's no good. But the other thing about water on and off, like the general consensus is water on the reef is better. We got spots at S-bend where me and Tim and I, and there's spots for high tide, water on the reef, and there's spots that you cannot fish or catch fish on high tide. It's a low tide spot. So it's just down to we fish all day, and that's the most important thing. You know how people say, oh, you got to have this moon or this tide or this time of the day. If you fish all day, you will catch a lot more fish and you'll work the whole thing out a lot better.
Yeah.
So these people, stop at, once the sun's up and go back and, have breakfast. Nah, you don't go back and have breakfast. You don't cook sausages when you're fishing, right? Right. You have them made up in a sandwich or a wrap in your esky, right? You just
Smash
fish
them
all
on the way
day,
to the next spot.
and you'll find places to fish all day efficiently. You'll find areas that will fish better at
Work
different.
it out.
We're here to fish, not fuck around.
Yeah. The other thing is you'll notice what
excited.
everything else is doing too. You'll notice what birds are doing. You might see bait. You notice how it all changes, and it kind of you begin to paint a picture
All
of
right.
why that works.
Let's move on from Tailor and we'll get into the
Should we
listening
talk
questions
about
in a
lures
second.
real quick?
But we can talk about lures, but I just want to leave this on one tip for a tailor fisherman. Have you got one thing that you can give?
I've got one. Slow your retrieve down. The common mistake I see a lot of people make is they cast and they just ping that lure straight back. It's just a constant reel. Twitch, wind, twitch, wind. You can pause a little bit, do something different.
Willie, I reckon when you gave yours almost just fucking
Yeah.
fish all day. Don't be a pussy.
That's
all
it.
right.
That's exactly my
Tim, you got anything?
The right terminal tackle, the right clips.
Yeah.
Easy clips.
You have a swap
Twist.
over lures and
Yeah. Twist snaps. We've just created a few new different twists in our range. Perfectly designed for tailor so you can switch your lures quickly.
So Vexed, what are they called? If people want to check them out.
this is a power snap. Or we got one
Vexed
called
power
a
snap.
twist snap as well. Now, the reason why we use clips is because I change lures a lot. I think it's important too. But more so, every time you tie on a lure, you're reducing the length of your leader. So sometime during the day, once you're reduced, you're going to have to tie an FG or a PR, right? And some people are more efficient than others, but by using a clip, you're not reducing the length of your leader. So you're fishing the perfect length leader. Now, don't cast the leader off your reel. Don't ever do that. You don't need that much leader. A Tailor's not going to go for the reef and bury you. So when you're, like I was saying before, when you've got too much leader, you're casting across the wind is putting a bigger bow into your line because the point, 50 leader, so 40 pound to 60 pound leader compared to your PE2 braid, going to have a massive impact on what your lure's doing. When you've got a belly in your line, the lure is working differently. You don't have contact with your lure. So if you reduce the length of your shock leader, I only fish a shock leader as long as my arm.
Yeah.
And it's outside the tip of the guide when I'm casting. You don't want a leader going through your guides, and you don't want a leader coming off your reel, because when the leader leaves the reel, it changes the speed, and that's what creates a wind knot. When the line changes in speed, the line behind it will catch up and overtake it, and that what creates a wind knot. But there's one thing that no one's touched on, which is the best tip for tailor fishing that no one's even mentioned yet.
What is it?
Do not use a wire trace.
Yes.
That is the number one tip for anyone who isn't an expert that's getting into tailor fishing. Do not use a wire trace.
You don't need to.
You don't need
Not
to.
mackerel.
And you're going to reduce
I'm using for Mackies, eh?
yeah, you're going to reduce the amount of tailor you catch. Not the tailor don't care sometimes. Sometimes they do. But you just do not need a wire trace.
Spot on.
Yeah. So here's real quick, lads, your top 3 lures for Tailor.
Mine's a skinny, a GT ice cream skinny. That's this one. A shiver stick is an absolute ripper, and a 65 gram raider.
What's that? A metal?
It's just a metal. It's a very simple,
Like $5 ones,
flat sided. With metals, they need to be flat sided. They not round. Twisties work. They're a fantastic lure. I've always done a lot better with a raider or the Helco Slice, which is such an underrated lure. Like
Outcast?
no,
The
just
Outcast?
the simple Helco Slice. Tim will tell you more about it because he used to sell them for years. But in my opinion, the simple silver or chrome Helco Slice with no twists or anything on it, I've caught so many more fish on them than Twisties personally. And they're not a popular seller for Helco, but mate, if you haven't used the Helco Slice before, get on it. And they used to have little red taggy things like
Oh,
that.
I know the one,
ones,
yeah, with the hole in them. Yeah.
But yeah,
Nice. Tim?
So my top 3 lures, in no particular order: skinny, GT ice cream skinny, shiver stick, and Rooster 105 from Halco. And I'll add quickly to Willie's metal conversation. So those Halco slices with the red tag on it, you can get it in streaker as well, which has got a hole in the middle. All their metals with that little red tag, check them out, because there's something about that tag that Tailor cannot resist. They've been around for donkey's years,
and
but
it's
they
a
catch.
good West Australian brand.
Yeah.
Helco's been around longer than us, and it's a West Aussie brand.
So we've all got 2 lures in common. So mine is definitely the GT ice cream. Again, no particular order. I love the pink, and I actually like the thicker version. So I'll use
Needle
a pink.
nose?
Yes.
Yep.
So I'll use it.
Tim likes it pink and thick too.
Okay. So I go the pink one if it's really foamy or really dirty, and I'll go the clear one on a clean day. I find that to be really functional. My second one again would be it's between a shiver stick in the 38 grade. Is that 115?
125 is a 38 gram.
125, yep. So shiver stick 125 in the mullet colour, real natural, nice bait fish colour, and then a secret one. And I'm going to have to get straight off this podcast and go and buy a shitload of them because they're hard to get as it is. But it's the Zip Bait SSM 120. I think they're a great lure. They don't sink that quick, but they've got a nice little wobble over the top of the surface, so you can pretty much get a surface bite on them, even though they are sinking stick bait. So, yeah, Charlie, mate, I hope you go
For
and
me,
get a Tailor.
they're a Tailor. I'll catch your cunts on anything, mate. pretty fucking simple.
That's the other thing. Catch them on a spoon and a
You're
homemade
fucking not that hard.
bloody lure. But yeah, Charlie, hopefully you get one, mate. If you do get one, please send us a photo so yeah, we can check it out. But good luck.
Bit of a deep dive, but pretty technical there as well, which is cool. I think we are pushing for time here. You boys have got somewhere to be. So we're going to wrap things up here with the Daiwa listener questions before
Yeah.
you go, if you got another 10 minutes to spare for us.
We've got the Daiwa man here. So Willie, to your right there, I strategically placed that bag next to you. That is an epic Infeet light tackle pack that Daiwa have provided for us. And I thought you could give us a real quick 20-second rundown of all the lures that are in there and what they can be used for. So there's a couple of bait junkies thrown in there for good measure, but what are we working with? What are we giving away this week?
Well, they've giving you the right stuff, mate, because you've got the 3-inch prawn, which is a terrific flathead lure. Very, very good for flatties, and everything up north as well. Skippy love them too. And you've got some, these are
The
wave
wave
minnow.
minnow.
So it's just like a grub with a extended long tail. Really good for brim and flathead and skippy. And I saw down the bottom here, man, you've got everything in here. You got slippery dogs for the whiting flats.
Yep.
Perfect colours as well. And you've got some spikes for brim. Really, really nice brim lure with those little spikes.
Yeah, the Kadachis as well.
Yeah, you got
which-
Kadachis. Oh, and you got the metal vibes. Yeah, there's a bundle of really good estuarine stuff in here as well. These little vibes, you can catch anything on them. Just burley up and you can get skippy on them as well as your brim
Nice.
and ladies and stuff.
So if you're listening and you want to be in the run and win these Daiwa tackle packs that we give away every episode for the listener questions, you got to be following us on Instagram and keep an eye on our stories. We put a little question box when we announce that a guest is going to be on, and you guys can fire them a question relative to their fishing experience. So we got a bunch today. These questions just keep growing every bloody time, Lecca. So I'll let you kick it off with one that stood out to you, mate.
Yeah, so I've got one here. Willie, any tips? This is from Chris, WA Fishings. It's his response. Willie, any tips on locating and chasing Perth Metro land-based sambos?
They're a tough fish, Metro, because there's real big ones and there's real small ones. So the real small ones are really good on those downstream river structures, like around Aquarama Swan Yacht Club. Been kicked off there a number of times before. And they're little ones up to sort of 3 kilos. And then there's big sambos, and they hang around the traffic bridge. Generally, they have done for years there, been stitched up more than I've caught there. But it's a bit of construction going on there at the moment, so I'm not going to recommend you go around there. But that, and they're massive sambos, like up to 20 odd kilos.
You got to throw PE10 just to have a chance.
Got to.
Right.
And sambos aren't the smartest fish. They're big and powerful, but they're not that smart like a king. So it's hit and miss. I've hooked them there and they've swum straight out, whereas a king wouldn't do that. But if they go the wrong way, then you're done. But the Samson fish isn't. It's not a viable target off the metro rock walls around Perth. You catch them as a bycatch to Mulloway or snapper fishing. So from the metro area, I wouldn't be recommending you target Samson fish because you're probably not going to catch any.
Better options.
Yeah, so you're better off going out of town a bit, and Lancelin Jetty, Savannah's Jetty.
No, there's none there.
Down south. Too,
but it's not the same fishing from.
There's some marinas as well where they come.
Yeah,
into,
yeah.
so inside the rock walls. Is
Yeah,
probably not bad.
so actually, yeah, and 2 rocks. But the problem is access and the places you want to be, you're not allowed to be, and stuff like that. So you can just pop the 2 rock marina. Tim's a lot more experience with that before, but I know Barry Tailor, he's up in Exmouth now working for Gatesy, but I think he's hooked and landed some real big ones in the 2 Rocks Marina. So
pretty much you can make a choice. You can go snapper fishing in the storms on the outside, or you can go popping for sambos on the inside.
Some kids have caught some thumping sambos in one of the local marinas here as well. Hillary's is always good. It's wicked to see the kids stretching their arms on some of those fish too. So
you're best to drive. Busso jetty's good, but it's different sambo fishing. It's not real sambo fishing. Real sambo fishing's off the rocks down south, slide baiting, or throwing big sticks is hard, but slide baiting and balloon live baiting under a balloon, that's real sambo fishing. So go down to Chains Beach, Denmark, all these sorts of areas, Walpole, that's proper sambo fishing.
Nice. So next one from Nathan M1 on Instagram. What are some of your most important fishing life lessons you've passed on to your kids?
Oh, good question. Patience. You know, having twin boys and trying to teach them to fish at the same time has been a huge challenge for them. But
even bigger challenge for you.
Huge challenge, but getting to slow down a little bit. They've learned up chasing Tailor on lures, so winding quickly. But then I've been doing flathead fishing the last 2 or 3 years with them and slowing down that plastic or that buckaboo jig or whatever we're fishing with. Learn to slow down the retrieve. That's been a challenge for them. So that's a big one. Tying knots. But these days they just jump on YouTube and watch it, and they're tying better knots than me almost. So, but patience is the big one. Stocks down.
Preparation for me. Preparation's the most important thing of fishing. So it's good to know, and it's good to ask questions. Like I touched on my other podcast, ask questions. Look at who's doing what you want to do, and ask questions and figure out why, and put everything you've learned off that guy to the next one that you ask who does it totally different. But preparation is more important than any of that. So having your tackle, like you just showed me then, that's preparation. Having the right backpack, having the right footwear, having the right tackle for where you're going to go. So you're
efficient.
You're efficient, and you're fishing the maximum amount of time and casts in the space that you've got to fish, in the time space you've got to fish. Having your rigs pre-tied, really important. Having the right clips in that box there, you need to have the right clips in there, so you're not getting out a different tackle box if you get busted off to put a clip on. Tiny little things like that.
I'll just chime in there as well, because I took my kids fishing recently, and teaches them problem solving and independence as well. I had a couple of times where we were just fishing for redfin in a lake, but it was like my boys would get a knot, or something would happen, they'd catch a fish, and I'd be like, we didn't come here to whinge. It's like, you can figure that out. I'm going to give you some time to figure it out. And the difference between the start of a session and the end of a session, it's fucking night and day. It's literally one of the best things you can do with your kids. Yeah,
just on preparation, you know how many times I've rocked up with my mate, whoever I've gone fishing with, whether it's on his boat or land-based. You know how many times I've caught a fish while he's still pulling the line out of his guides.
That seems to be the case when on Luke's boat a lot.
Yeah.
Because he's the first one to hook up.
Because he's, recovering the next morning. He's usually been out in the town smacking it right. I mean, I've been up all night tying FG knots onto spare spools. So if I get busted off, I can pop it on, getting all my lures ready, and that happens a lot. So
club fisherman.
So a lot of the fish you catch are caught from the preparation done the night before you go fishing.
Yep, great tip. You got another one?
I got one. WA Flatty Adventures. What structure do you look for when chasing big bream, and what's your favourite lure choice for bream?
For me, there's no particular structure. It's a lot of structure. So, I mean, if you're in a boat, you're fishing as much structure as you can possibly cast to. So you're looking for everything: rocks, jetties, boats, weed on flats. But I'm not a bream boat fisherman. I'm a shore-based fisherman, and most of my best work has been done on flats, fishing flats, and that's covering area. Simple as that. So some of the biggest and best bream I've ever caught has been up to my nuts in water, casting at nothing. So that's
and favorite lure.
For me, my favorite lure is a Sazanami, a Daiwa Sazanami in the AU color, because I caught a 49 centimeter bream down south on that lure. So,
that was in one of those random pools.
No. That was in an estuary system around rocks. It was on one.
I remember.
It was on Luke's Tackle West.
You guys are losing your shit.
So I hooked this massive bream, and we saw it come out, and it's around these big stacks of like oyster encrusted bommies. And I hooked it, and I thought, there's no way I can get that bream to the boat. So I'm nervous, and I'm fighting it. And I said to Luke, I said, "Oh my God, that's a 50." And I said, "Help." And he goes, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "Just jump in." That's what I said to him. I wanted him to jump in and just go and get it for me. And then, so that was the best bream I've ever caught on a lure. I've caught bigger ones.
They're
over
like
50
a shallow running double clutch pretty much.
Yeah, so a Sazanami is a Daiwa, exactly right. It's a shallow running double clutch, but
great flatty lure too.
But there is no one good lure for bream, because there's so many situations, so many structures and depths that you need to fish. So the best bream lure is to have 150 of the bastards, and you need 3 of each of your favourites, because if you lose one and you lend one to your mate, then you don't have one.
Yeah. All right, I've got one here. There was one for annual movement of Mulloway and the Swan, but we've talked enough about Mulloway. We'll save that for another time. Luca B4. What is the biggest fish on the smallest lure you have caught? Biggest fish on the smallest lure you have caught?
Gee, I've
elephants eat peanuts. So this is a great question.
The one that comes to mind wasn't a particular small lure, I guess. So I was using a Barra Classic 125. I was up the back of the Rail or the Minjil River on the Admiralty Gulf with Bluey Vaughan, and I hooked something next to a rock cast retrieving with a little bait caster, and I had a very light bass rod with a barrel reel with 30 pound on it. I hooked up, and 20 minutes later, I landed a 100-pound Queensland groper that just wolfed this lure right down. So that was a large lure, but it was a big fish.
Fish you probably shouldn't have landed.
Yeah,
Tim?
Yeah.
Mine's not that exciting, but the 13 kilo Spanish mackerel on a 20-gram black twisty.
Oh, really? That's pretty sick.
Fishing with Steve Riley up at Exmouth. We went out to Peak Island just casting in the bait schools, bareback, no wire.
Yeah.
But the Mackies up there, they just snipped the small, tiny lures. So
lucky.
That was it.
Nice.
All right, I got one here. Riley Kennett, what's your favourite Daiwa reel of all time?
Right question. Can I have a guess? I reckon it's either going to be the Millionaire or the Catalina.
Oh, geez, they're two. It's actually a really hard question. But my favourite ever Saltiga reel is not the current model, but it was the first model, the Saltiga Z 4500.
Yeah.
Because I could only afford to buy one. I was working at Blue Water at the time. I got a good deal on it, but I could only afford one Saltiga. I couldn't get the big boy because I wanted the 45 for spinning off the rocks at Steep Point and Quabbra and places like that.
Were they red?
No, that was the red Saltiga came out as a Z on the back of the original Z, and they were called S Extreme and Maverick. So S Extreme was your standard gear ratio Saltiga, and they were light red.
Yeah.
And then the Maverick was a dark red, and that was your high speed one. And that was an Australian only project, and it actually kind of flopped, to be honest.
I know someone with a Bungan bought a Maverick. I bought a Dogfight with the bigger ones, and I lost one of those S Extremes out of a rod holder on my fucking polycraft. It was in the rod holder in the front, and I was driving around onto a lump, and I just saw the rod and reel just like slowly go. It was heartbreaking.
Well, the reason it kind of flopped is because when people are buying a Saltiga, they want it as Japanese as possible. But because we advertised, this is in 2000 and I don't know, 5, 6 or 7, around there, I think it was. We advertised the fact that these were an Australian design model. So it was just different colours for the Australian market, right? And a whole fleet of sizes. We actually sold the silver original ones better. But afterwards, when they were discontinued, then everyone wanted them. And I remember Karratha Adventure Sports, Adam, he bought a whole shitload off me up there once. And then I went in the next trip and I said, where's all your Saltiga S Extremes and Mavericks? You must have sold them all. He goes, oh, yeah, well, give me another 5 or 10 of each. So he used to order like that. He didn't have a computer system. And someone had put them in a box and hidden them somewhere and they got lost. And then all of a sudden, I went back the next time and he goes, you bastard, you stitched me up, right? This is Adam up at Karratha. He's not in there anymore. His daughter Tash is in charge. And I thought, oh, shit, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to take these back. And Bob's going to kick my ass at Daiwa. But then he kept them for like 10 years. And then everyone was looking for them and they were ringing him up and they were getting like $1,500 for a reel. They became sought after.
All the Karratha boys look at I've got a few messages. If you're ever going to get rid of that Dogfight, we'll take it off you as well. Like Dogfight was a Japanese one, and so was Expedition. Yeah. But the Australian one was the S Extreme standard speed, and the Maverick high speed. The Maverick were black and red, weren't they?
So the Maverick was deep, nearly black.
Yeah. Okay.
Deep cherry red, and then that was the high speed one, and then the S Extreme was a lighter red. They actually look fantastic, but red reels, to buy a reel at that price is like, no one wanted it. It's like a ranger. It's like walking around with red hair. No one wants you until Ed Sheeran and Prince Harry makes you sought after. Your stock price goes up and then you're unavailable.
Becomes a fad. Yeah. What about you, Tim?
I'll be quick. I had a Saltiga 4500 original that my good mate Daniel Bell sold me for like $100 a few years ago. I've caught so many good fish on that, but that's my second favourite. My first favourite is my current Saltus 10,000 because that is the most versatile reel I've owned. It's smooth. I can surf fish with it. I can go to Dirk and spin lures with it. And I can fish for boldies and spanglies at close quarters off the rocks with it. I can go out trolling for max. I can demersal bottom meat fish with it when we can. So it is a super versatile reel. So if you're looking for a reel you can do everything in, an 8,000 or a 10,000 Saltus, that's what I would recommend.
I reckon that sort of wraps us up, man, for listener questions.
Yep.
A few good ones there. So we usually throw it to the guest lads to pick their favourite question. So you had, from my side, what are some of your most important fishing life lessons you've passed on to your kids, from Nathan M. You had Riley Kennett, what is your favourite Daiwa reel, that we just answered. And then Luca B for what is the biggest fish on the smallest lure you've caught. And then you had...
Yeah, we had the Sambos, the question about locating Metro Sambos, and the brim with structure. What do you reckon, boys?
I like the answer that we got. We got a bit of a history lesson out of that Daiwa reel, but it's not up to me. The Daiwa question I liked. You
Tim
boys?
can choose. He's the one that makes all the decisions in my business.
I like the dial question.
Yep.
Yeah?
100%.
It's a
What is
Daiwa
your
price pack.
favourite Daiwa reel of all time? Riley Kennett. Mate, you're not getting a Daiwa reel, but actually, maybe we can hook him up with a reel. I reckon we got a
Nah,
spare.
he's getting the fucking
yeah.
price pack. Settle down.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I'm feeling generous today. But hey, you're not getting a reel. You are getting a mental Daiwa light tackle pack. It's probably about $500 worth of lures in there, mate. So
Oh,
I
at
hope you're
least
in your
there's a
brim
bunch of
fishing, your flatty fishing, even your soapy Mulloway will take that sort of stuff. Whiting, mate, you're getting hooked up proper. So thanks to the guys at Daiwa for hooking us up with them and hooking up the listeners. We'll get that out in the mail to you, mate.
Well done.
Sweet as.
Boys, I think that just about wraps us up. We'd love to sit down. We planned this on being a little bit of a shorter episode, but we've still punched out an
Still
hour and a
healthy.
half pretty easy. So
No quick fire.
no quick fire today. You boys have already been in. So yeah, thanks for coming in. I'm pretty keen on getting you guys to knock those lures into the wall, and we'll have to tee up a fish. Part of your thing is going fishing more often. We're going to tag along if we can, because you guys know exactly what you're doing.
Make
Loved
us do it. That's the key. Make us.
We'll make you do it. I dare you. You won't.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming in, boys. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, boys.
Tall Tales.